And welcome to our Prime session today. So it's our October Prime session. Prime stands for Primary Research in Medical Education. So today we have two speakers who is going to share with us their excellent study as well. So, and I would like to welcome all of you coming from different parts of the world, joining us here for our October Prime. So before I invite the first speaker, I would like to share a little bit about himself. He's Dr. Mahbub. So Dr. Mahbub is a senior lecturer and research coordinator at Monash Center for Scholarship in Health Education and an academic development specialist at the Monash Education Academic. He's also a senior fellow of advanced health profession education and an Enzape fellow. His research focuses a lot on professional development for university educators, evolution of health professions education research methodologies, and the employability for healthcare students. He has a lot of work published in top-ranked education journals, and today he's going to share with us one of his research, which is focusing on scaffolding pedagogical content knowledge for health profession educators through faculty development. So may I invite Dr. Mahbub SARKAR?
Thank you, Shushing, and hello everyone. So let me share my screen. Am I sharing the right screen, Shushing?
Yes, you are.
Cool.
Yep.
Thank you. So hello everyone. Well, again, so Shushing has introduced me kindly, and that's a generous introduction. I was really looking forward to speaking in front of you about this exciting work, in my view, that we have done, and we are still working on this. It's about scaffolding pedagogical content knowledge. In short, it's called PCK. It's for health professionals educated through faculty development. And I'd like to start with acknowledging the country, the people of the Kulin Nations on whose land Monash University Australian campus stand, and from where I meet you today. And I pay my respect to their elders past, present, and future. And if any indigenous community people from anywhere in the world, if you are here today, so I pay my respect to you as well. So I'd like to start with a question. What does expertise mean? So what's the difference between somebody who is an expert in a subject matter? So, all about physiology, for example, or a particular branch of physiology, and somebody who is a teacher of that subject matter. So you are helping other people to learn about it. So thinking about that distinction between the expertise in the content and expertise in teaching the content really important, because then what does expertise mean? And the idea is that we want to start teasing apart what does it mean to have professional expertise in teaching, in what ways that really support student learning of that subject matter. And we argue that that's a different kind of expertise than knowing just your subject matter or the content. So that's the kind of area that I want to dig into in my research. So this smiling gentleman is Lee Schulman, who is considered as the father of PCK, or pedagogical content knowledge. And Lee is an educational psychologist and researcher from the US. And maybe some of you already know about his work. And he was the one who drew people's attention to the idea that teaching has a specialist kind of expertise, and that is different from somebody who has been conned from being a content specialist. And he raised it in a particularly a very political environment in the US back in the 80s. And that time, teaching was not being recognized as something that was distinctive and having its own distinctive set of knowledge and activities and expertise. So he asked the question, what is the specialized expertise that characterizes teaching as a professional activity. And he talked about this as a missing paradigm in research on teaching. Schulman aptly argues that possessing a deep understanding of content and general pedagogy is not sufficient for effective teaching. What truly matters is the fusion of content and pedagogy into a comprehensive understanding of how specific content, problems, or issues are structured, communicated, and adapted to cater to diverse learners' interests and capabilities. This unique blend, he termed as pedagogical content knowledge, a mouthful of word. In short, it's PCK, is considered an essential educator knowledge for effective teaching. For example, for a chemistry teacher, PCK concerns how they transform their subject matter knowledge into forms and representations, for example, through chemical models that are meaningful and comprehensible to students at a level that matches their development. So, in terms of the development of PCK, a lot of professional knowledge that educators develop over time and how to teach their subject is rather complex. It's not a simple thing. It's often intertwined with the individual, the content of teaching, and the environment in which it occurs. Often, for a lot of expert educators, it becomes routinized and tacit so that they know automatically what they're doing. Like when you are cooking and you are a master chef, so you might not really think very carefully about what particular spices you are adding one after another, right? So you are not following a specific recipe like a novice cook. They're not necessarily aware of the ways they facilitate learning once they reach a certain level of routine. It's integrated with various kinds of knowledge and is in part shaped by one's beliefs and perspectives on teaching and learning. So, one important thing is PCK, it evolves over time through experience, and it is not one size fit all knowledge. So PCK uh, cannot be simply imported from one subject to another. So great PCK for a particular topic within anatomy, for example, doesn't necessarily translate into other topics even within anatomy. It certainly doesn't translate into being a great engineering educator. So each field has its nuances, and PCK needs to be cultivated within the specific subject matter. So, one way to develop educators' PCK and to help them articulate their PCK, as I mentioned, PCK is a tacit knowledge, is it's called co. But before I go there, so I'll talk about how PCK links to faculty development. So one thing is PCK impacts educator professional learning for high quality teaching. There are research around that. And its value lies in making the typically tacit components of educators' practice explicit, thus promoting individual and collective knowledge development. Research also showed that effective PCK development and improvement relies on targeted educator support in the form of professional learning opportunities. However, there are limited knowledge of how university educators, particularly in health professions education, can use PCK for their professional learning, and how PCK-informed faculty development initiatives can support PCK development among health professions educators. We identified these gaps through systematic scoping review we published in teacher and teacher education. So I have put a QR code in here on the screen. If you're interested, you can just explore this paper in detail. So I was started talking about the code. Core, it's called content representation, and it's an effective method for developing and capturing PCK. This tool engages educators in reflecting on a specific content topic, asking them to identify the central concepts associated with that topic. Once identified, educators provide written responses to a series of prompts. Here you can, on the screen, you can see these prompts. These prompts includes um, what students should learn about each big idea, why that idea is important to know, what students typically struggle to conceptualize related to this idea, specific teaching strategies designed to promote students learning about the idea, and ways of ascertaining students' understanding of the idea. So used in this way, the core offers both a method for eliciting PCK and a tool for capturing PCK as educated document and reflect on the teaching goals and practice. And in that way, this core development process might help the educator's professional development. So, as I described so far, given the positive impact of PCK on enhancing professional knowledge for effective teaching, our study investigates the learning process of health professions educators in developing their PCK through a faculty development initiative supported by the core tool. Now, we adopted a qualitative methodology underpinned by social constructionism, which we acknowledge that multiple interpretations of reality is there as individuals make sense of their experiences through social interactions and the surrounding environment. Um, 8 educators from 7 different health-related disciplines at Monash University participated actively in the study for 1 year. Educators first attended a workshop that introduced the ideas of PCK and the core representation tool, the core tool. Each participating educator was then provided with a blank core tool and asked to identify a topic they were teaching in the immediate future and to fill out as much of the core as possible for that topic. Each draft core was then shared with the research team and other study participants who provided feedback to further refine the core ideas. Additionally, the research team organized course support sessions and developed an online community of practice for PCK-related discussion, resource sharing, and networking. In this session, discussions included the kinds of difficulties that students encountered in learning selected concepts and how to support students with difficulties. Educators then taught the topic using their core plan and completed 2 rounds of interviews and written reflections following their teaching. So data collections comprised 14 individual interviews, 16 written reflections, and 8 lesson planning artifacts as completed core. And we analyzed this data using team-based thematic analysis approach. And on this screen, sorry, you cannot read this, it's very small font, but this is an example of a code that a participant completed. However, at the end of the session, I'll provide you with a QR code and a resource page where you will find all of this completed code and you can explore them further. So be with me for this moment. So let's talk about some results that we have got. So through our thematic analysis, we identified 4 themes. So first one is about the articulation of teaching purpose. So the core tool facilitated educators in distinguishing key ideas to clarify their teaching focus and prompted critical reflection and documentation of teaching strategies to enhance pedagogical practices purposefully. For example, you can see what Mariam in that interview too commented. She said that I think writing down the big ideas really helped me to identify the important things that I want students to learn and take away from my classes. and also help to identify the things that were nice for them to know but not sort of necessary, not the really important things. So that kind of helped again to have a bit of clearer focus and clear goal with my teaching. So you are all aware of that. Like when you go to teaching, there are many things you want to teach, but we need to make a decision about what is important students to learn for this particular time and focus on that. So the core tool helps them to identify that particular focus, as Mariam has mentioned. Let's go to theme two. It's about understanding students' learning needs. So our participants viewed that the core tool prompts that I've showed before, they provided them with a scaffold for planning and designing instruction focused on students' learning needs, particularly considering students' prior knowledge, disciplinary background, learning challenges, and knowledge gaps. For example, Melanie in interview two commented that I think the bit that stuck me a lot is really needing to revisit and learn more about the student misconceptions and ensuring that there is something going on during that class that allows me to really see very quickly where those students are at. If there's nothing going on that I can see during class and they go in with it and how they are manipulating the ideas, then I have got to wait until later to see what the misconceptions are. Because the core tool asks you to identify some misconceptions that students might have. And you are identifying them based on your past teaching experiences, or you can use a teaching survey to explore what misconceptions, alternative conceptions students might have on a particular topic, and design your teaching based on this so that you know when you are teaching where they are at in terms of their learning. The theme three talks about the promotion of reflection on teaching practice. So our participants perceive that involvement in the project through initial workshop, ongoing mentoring, and the use of the core tool yielded benefits for educators in terms of self-reflection and peer feedback on their curriculum planning and teaching. And one of the participants, Miriam, again reflected on, I found that the process of recording my PCK through the core tool and then getting feedback on it helped me to reflect on how and why I teach what I teach and be more purposeful in my teaching. And you can read the other aspect as well. I'm mindful of this time, so I'll move to our fourth theme. It talks about the challenges in adapting and implementing the core tool. So the health professions educators in our research, they face challenges with the core tool's adaptability to different content organizations and learning orientations, compounded by systematic hurdles, time constraints, and institutional resistance, which hindered the implementation of core-based innovations. For example, Edward commented on, I found the core tool really, what's the word? I guess alienating. I thought about it a lot, and I think the reason is possibly because I just don't think in such small chunks. Maybe it's just because I tend to think of everything as an interconnected, and maybe I need to think in more discrete bits. So that's what challenge that Edward faced. And Emilia, on the other hand, commented that because I'm just like a teaching associate, I don't have a lot to do with the formal assessment of the course that already set by unit coordinators. I found that section sometimes a little bit difficult because I'm quite limited in what I can do myself to ascertain students' learning other than doing it while I'm presenting, coaching their own reactions. So as a teaching associate, she didn't have much autonomy to, for example, design the assessment or change her teaching approach. And that was the systemic challenge that Amelia experienced. So I'm going to conclusion now. So our study findings highlight the critical role of faculty development programs and the use of the core tool as an effective means of articulating and scaffolding educators' PCK, and as a strategy for the continuous improvement for teaching practices for both experienced and novice educators. While they had some challenges they encountered while they were using the core tool and the PCK infused teaching approach they did through their teaching. And our study also highlight that the collaborative use of the core tool promotes peer feedback and facilitates knowledge sharing, thus fostering a collective understanding of PCK and affirming its relevance within the broader health profession education community. So the institution should foster environment conducive to pedagogical innovations by addressing bureaucratic hurdles like rigid curricula, limited support for innovation, and heavy workload that we identified in our study. So here is a QR code again. So based on our study findings, we developed a resource for educators, and it's freely available, so you can explore this resource. And the resource is talking about how we can build PCK, and there are some worked out examples of the core tool, and all in health profession education and some in other disciplines as well, and teachers' narratives on how they incorporated core and PCK into their teaching. So it can be a good source for you to explore further. I think that's very much it, but I'd like to thank my research team. That's include Amanda Berry, Charlotte Barber, Laura Buccelli, Susie Ho, Thomas Hiscox, Dragan Illich, Michelle Lazarus, Nicole Maynard, Caroline Wright, and Paul White, and also acknowledge the funding bodies, NZAPI and Monash Education Academy. And here is my contact details. So after the session, if anyone has any questions, any comments, any feedback, if you want to talk more and learn more about PCK, and if you want to incorporate some ideas into your teaching, I'm happy to help in that aspect as well. Thank you so much for being with me.
Thank you, thank you, Dr. Mahbub, for the very inspiring sharing, I would say, on what you have done in your institution. And thank you for your kindness and generosity in sharing the free resources for everybody, because that's one of the um, things that I would like to request for. Can I take a look at your core resources and or curriculum? So Duchipa has a few questions. I hope we have time to address all. So how might your findings inform competency framework for educators? That is the first question.
Yep.
There are 4 questions. There are 5 questions in total.
Right. I'll start from the beginning, right?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So it's a really good question. So if I take Monash University as an example, so we have a professional standards framework for our educators. And one of the domain in the framework is their professional knowledge. And educators are expected to demonstrate their PCK through their teaching. And for example, if educator is planning to go for a promotion or a probation or their performance appraisal, so they need to show the evidence that they have incorporated the idea of PCK. The whole notion of PCK is the reflection and helping you to think through what particularly is needed for particular students to learn for a particular topic, and what approach. There are thousands of different teaching approaches that we can choose from, but how we decide what particular approach is suitable for the particular topic, and how do you make decisions. So if you ask a teacher, so how do you think this is an appropriate teaching approach for this content? Often what they do, they teach with intuition. They think, oh, this is the way I should teach, or they teach the way they were taught. But the framework like our performance standard framework or advanced HE's professional standards framework, they all talk about thinking through the evidence. So what evidence out there that's showing the appropriateness of your teaching, and always collect students' voices. So how do they feel when you teach? And how their voice can be incorporated into your teaching. So the whole idea of PCK address that aspect. All right.
Yeah.
With the
So,
second question.
yeah, to what extent should faculty development focus on individual versus collective learning based on your study?
It's a really good question. And if you look at the PCK framework, I didn't present it here today, but the QR code I showed, you can explore it further. They talked about the individual PCK because PCK fundamentally is individual knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
an individual teacher possesses. And when they share this knowledge with other educators, and that can be used as a vehicle for their mutual professional development. So PCK is individual, but once they're sharing this, it can be considered as a collective PCK for a particular knowledge domain.
Mm-hmm.
And in
I
our
see.
study, we found that educators identified that's very beneficial when they
Mm-hmm.
share the PCK with others. And
Mm-hmm.
I looked at the core, and I had no content expertise in this. But what I did was, as a generalist, what questions I had in mind. So I asked these questions, asked these prompts, and that helped educators to think more thoroughly, truly about their teaching approach.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So I think a lot it's when you share it's reflective about our own teaching as well as being evidence based as well in the teaching. Perhaps we can just take one more last question from Dujipa. How do institutional culture support or hinder PCK development?
So what hinders or support PCK
Yes.
development? Maybe I start with the what are the barriers, what hinders. So the one thing is belief, belief you have as an educator about teaching, and that belief needs to be tapped into. And you are, myself, as I'm an reflective practitioner, so I always reflect on what works, what doesn't work, and how I can improve. And if you look at the core prompts, it somehow incorporate this reflective notion of how we think. But it's a time-consuming thing. And whether, as an educator, I have that belief that spending time in this is actually useful, it's beneficial, and it can be a barrier for many people because we have the institutional hurdles like the workload and those kind of stuff, and very rigid curricula thingy like when you have the accreditation thing. So there are many things educators have less autonomy to change. So those are the I think hurdles. But the if you ask me for the enablers, and these are the collaborative notion and institutional support to have mentors. So experienced educators can be paired with who has limited experience, who are just novice too, and they can help them to think through the teaching and articulate them in their approach. So yeah, so institutional support through mentoring, um, PD activities,
Mm-hmm.
these are really useful. And to be honest, there is not much for university educators, because if you want to teach at school, then you need a teaching degree, right? But if you want
Yep.
to teach at the uni, you don't need a
You
teaching
do.
degree. You
Yes.
have the content knowledge, you have a PhD, for example, and next day you can start teaching. So
Yep.
that's
Yep.
really a systemic challenge we all have to we are dealing with.
I think this systemic challenge it's globally experienced.
Hmm.
So we do encounter that situation as well. So unfortunately, we don't have more time to discuss this
Yep.
further. Yeah, and thank you so much for your sharing and your wisdom as well in this work. Um, I would like to invite my colleague, Dr.
Thank you,
Gillian,
Glenn.
to introduce the next speaker. And thank you so much once again to Dr. Mahbub.
Thank you. Thank you, Sushi and Dr. Mahbub. So I will proceed to introduce our second speaker. So our second speaker is Dr. Wong Lik Wei. He's from the Department of Physiology with the Yong School of Medicine at National University of Singapore. So Lik Wei will be sharing with us his study is titled Academic Engagement with AI Chatbots in Medicine and Allied Health Education, an educational study informed by self-determination theory. So, Dr. Wong, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jillian. So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, CEMET and NUS-PRIME for giving me this opportunity for me to share our study on looking at the impact of AI chatbot on learning and motivation among medical and pharmacy students. Right. So with rapid advancement in AI technologies, we as educators need to consider how we can incorporate AI tools to supplement our teaching and enhance student learning. And our group are particularly interested in how AI technologies impact motivation. And according to self-determination theory, or SDT, autonomous or intrinsic motivation can lead to greater engagement and persistence in learning. So if we look at SDT, it identifies three basic psychological needs: competence, autonomy, and relatedness. Competence is when you feel the confidence and capable of doing something. Autonomy, so when you are experiencing the sense of a choice and freedom. And a relatedness, when you feel warm and connected to others. So when these three basic needs are fulfilled, they can significantly enhance the students' learning and motivation. And the aim of our studies is to investigate the potential of ChatGPT as a pedagogical tool for enhancing learning and motivation among medical and pharmacy students. Specifically, it seeks to evaluate ChatGPT's influence on cognitive development and engagement while exploring students' perceptions of its role in supporting their learning. So in our study, we involve two groups of students. So one group of the students is year 2 pharmacy students who attending this course on cardiovascular system. And another group of students was year 1 medical students who are attending this module on cardiovascular system. So actually in these two courses, most of the time, students spend their own time for self-directed learning. And for self-directed learning, students were provided with e-books, online lecture videos, and quizzes. And at the same time, students were encouraged to ask and submit their questions by using a specific Q&A link that we provide to students. And basically, all the students can access to this Q&A link. But in addition to that, actually, we asked our students to find answers from ChatGPT first, and after that, our teachers will evaluate the responses from ChatGPT. And ChatGPT was also incorporated into a case-based group discussion for our pharmacy students. And at the end of the course, survey questionnaire was administered to assess learning and motivation. And we'll also have two open-ended questions asking students about the strengths and limitations of the ChatGPT. And focus group discussion was also conducted for our pharmacy students. All right, so these are the questions that we use to assess needs satisfaction. So in terms of autonomy, competence, and relatedness. So actually we use a 5-point Likert scale questionnaire. And we also use these 7 questions to look at interest and enjoyment. And here are another 6 questions that we use to look at the value and usefulness of our chatbot. Previously, actually, we looked at the potential of students' questions in medical education. And we know that questions generated by the student or the questions asked by the students actually can inform us about how much students learned, right, to examine their cognitive engagement. By incorporating or promoting, encouraging question asking in the curriculum, actually it can help us to understand how students process and apply what they have learned. And in addition, actually the student questions are very useful resources, especially for our teachers, because the teachers potentially they can modify, refine their teaching strategies to better match the learning needs of our students. All right, so this is the example of our Q&A document, where in the first column, students ask questions, students submit and ask questions. And in the second column, this is where students look of the answers from the ChatGPT first. And in the last and the third column, this is where the teachers evaluate, respond to the answers provided by the ChatGPT. And the teachers will respond to on the students whether the answers or the responses were accurate or inaccurate. So in general, as we know that the responses provided by ChatGPT were significantly long compared to the responses from human teachers. And we also understand that the responses or the answers that you get from the chatbot also depends on how well you ask the questions, right? So how much information or what are the content, the detail that you input in the questions that will influence the answers or responses from our AI chatbot. All right, now we move on to the result sections. First, I'm going to talk about the result from our pharmacy students. So actually, we conducted this study 2 years back. So around 60% of the students use ChatGPT for their studies. So in general, students who use ChatGPT demonstrate a greater needs satisfaction in all 3 components, the autonomy, competence, and relatedness. So actually, if we look deeper into all these 3 components, right? Actually, students quite appreciate the autonomy and competence afforded by ChatGPT. But if we look at these 2 statements under relatedness, so we ask the students about whether they experience a warm feeling spending time with the AI chatbot, or whether they felt close and connected when using the AI chatbot. So actually, we found that quite a high percentage of the students, around 40 to 50% of the students, felt neutral to these 2 statements. So actually, it shows that although students appreciate autonomy and the competence afforded by ChatGPT, it's still not fully engaged the sense of relatedness as strongly as 2 other SDT dimensions. And this demonstrates that our students still very much appreciate human interactions. And the students also found enjoyment in using ChatGPT, and they found it to be a valuable tool for their learning. So actually from our thematic analysis, ChatGPT is highly valued for its ability to support learning and understanding, for its speed and efficiency, reinforcement and confidence, and also idea generation. And here are some responses from our students. They know that the chatbot really saved their time. They like the chatbot can give immediate feedback, easy to understand answer and the manner, right? Helping with summary. I think students really like it and really can save a lot of time. And actually, sometimes the ChatGPT, the prompts, the answers can give you the different answers and also different opinions. And this really helps to spark a discussion among the students. And I think one thing is good that actually students know that they still need to learn whether the answers provided by the ChatGPT is wrong or right. I think this is important because actually this encourages metacognition. They're not fully believe the answers provided by the ChatGPT without any checking. And actually this can enhance their critical thinking. Yeah, and they also believe that the AI chatbot can motivate them to continue, check the answer and increase their confidence. And the most frequently mentioned limitations of ChatGPT are its inaccuracy, a lack of contextualization, still need for human judgment and verification, and the consequences from over-reliance on AI. And some of the responses from our students, wrong information, not always accurate. Sometimes they still need to spend a lot of time to find the answer or solutions by themselves. So if you truly depend on ChatGPT, this may decrease in people thinking. And students still appreciate some level of human interactions. And some of them still more trust like the standard resources like a textbook and lecture notes. And they also feel that if you're too dependent on ChatGPT, let's for instance, this can lead to laziness and decrease in the critical thinking. All right, so now I move on to the result from medical students. So we do have a smaller sample size from our medical students. So around 80% of the students use ChatGPT for their studies. And we found that there is a slightly increase in needs satisfaction for those who use ChatGPT, especially in terms of the autonomy and competence, but not for relatedness. And students also found enjoyment in using ChatGPT, and they found it to be a valuable tool for their learning. And in total, actually, for this study, we received 31 questions from our students. And actually, we look at the questions, we categorize the questions based on Bloom's taxonomy. And what we found is that most of the questions fell into the category of understand and applied, and only a few questions fell into the category of analyze. And this shows that the ChatGPT promotes cognitive engagement from surface to intermediate level. So for the higher order thinking, such as the analyze, probably is still naturally less promoted by ChatGPT. And looking at the strengths of ChatGPT, so quite similar to our pharmacy students, students appreciate its speed and immediate access, concise, organized, targeted responses, and it's very useful to support a deeper understanding and clarification. So ease of use and navigation, and also scalability and infinite patience. And here are some responses from our medical students, right? They really appreciate the fast answer. It's available 24 and 7. And this is really, actually it's really good for the students before we do have this AI chatbot to assist the students learning. And students also appreciate the concise, organized, targeted responses from ChatGPT. And they also compare with the Google, and they mention that the answers are more specific compared to Google. And some of the students appreciate for its support for deeper understanding and clarification. Especially we know that the chatbot can help to generate ideas, and it's also able to explain some topic without getting exhausted. And also the instant feedback actually help the student to understand their strengths and the weaknesses, and from there actually they can adjust their own learning. And definitely the chatbot, the ChatGPT actually is very easy to use, easy to navigate, and is accessible and very convenient. And finally, talking about the scalability and infinite patience, definitely compared to humans, our chatbot actually, they can keep on explaining the same thing without getting exhausted. All right, so looking at the limitations of ChatGPT, also quite similar to the responses that we have from our pharmacy students, still concerned about its inaccuracy and misinformation, and also concerned about the alignment with academic standards in schools, probably can lead to lack of critical thinking and learning motivation, and also in personal interaction. And here are some responses from our students. Sometimes misinformation, not always correct, partial correct, right, or wrong information. So they also are not sure whether the content or the responses from the ChatGPT, whether or not it's accurate compared to the school's syllabus. So what's taught in the school probably is not aligned with the responses that provided by ChatGPT. So sometimes there are discrepancies with taught material. All right, so too much over-reliance on the ChatGPT, and some of the students also understand that this can lead to laziness, especially you don't spend much time to think critically by yourself. All right, it's very mundane, no emotions. So actually, we understand that our students still pretty much appreciate human interaction. All right, so we all know that AI chatbots are here to stay, and they can have positive motivational benefits if they are effectively integrated into our teaching pedagogies. And we need to understand that AI chatbots are here to supplement for our teaching and learning, and not for a replacement for human teachers, because our students still very much value human engagement. So in general, AI chatbot can enhance competence and motivations, and it also can foster peer engagement and teamwork. So I think in conclusion, we as educators need to focus on how we can incorporate AI technologies to supplement our teaching and enhance students' learning. And we also need, in addition, it's also important for us to explore how AI technologies can be developed to function as part of a collaborative human AI teaching team rather than a replacement for human teachers. All right, I think that concludes my presentation today, and thank you for attention.
Thank you, Li Wei, for your sharing. And
Thank you.
for our participants here today, please feel free to put your questions in the chat box, and we will take this time to address them. So just to begin, okay.
Mm.
Oh, we have a question from Tuchipa, and quite a lengthy one as well. So, okay, Tuchipa, your first question will be, my question is from your studies on AI. Could you share how AI chatbots enhance or undermine students' sense of autonomy and relatedness in their learning, since these are important in developing students' learning or competence?
Okay, so actually in terms of autonomy, because with the AI, okay, with the, let's say with the with the AI chatbot, actually students can ask questions anytime and anywhere. right? Actually, this definitely can improve their confidence and also the feeling of capable. Because without AI chatbot, I think probably previously most of the students will ask their professors, or the teachers for the answer, and sometimes, honestly, you wouldn't get that response so promptly. So I think with the AI chatbot, I think students can be more in control of their own learning, because actually they can get immediate response and the feedback from the chatbot. So I think immediately actually they can know the gaps in their own learning, and then from there actually they can quickly adjust their learning strategies, or to sort of like filling the gap in their own learning, so that they can proceed further. Yeah. So that's about the autonomy. So in terms of the relatedness, so actually from our study, we found that compared to two other DT dimensions, autonomy and competence, actually students, okay, they do appreciate the autonomy and the competence components of the AI chatbot. But eventually, I think students still appreciate some levels of human interaction, right? But eventually, this is the study that we conducted 2 years ago. But I think now the AI chatbot, I think they make this relatedness stronger and stronger. I think now they put in some emotion, the way they respond to you. I think eventually, I think the most recent, the AI chatbot, for instance, the ChatGPT, may increase the relatedness components of our SDT. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your response. I think what you have shared is that yes, while ChatGPT is quite suitable with regards to engaging students in learning, it's still in the early phase, or still try to improve in a sense of trying to be more humanistic for
Yes,
students
yeah.
to have some form of relatedness. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I think follow up from this question, maybe just your personal feel. Do you think this we could potentially use ChatGPT in learning of clinical skills?
Yes. Because I think eventually, yes. For instance, let's say history taking. Let's say history taking. I know that I think my colleagues actually they start to you know I think they want to create a chatbot that help the students with history taking skills. So because eventually, probably in the beginning, when students do not have much experience in like the clinical practice or the history taking, they feel shy, and they feel that they make a lot of mistakes. I think with the AI chatbot, I think it gives the opportunities for the student to make mistakes without any fear, but at the same time, actually, they can practice their skills by interacting with the AI chatbot. Yeah, I think that's possible. Yeah.
Yes. All right. So I think what you're saying is more like the preliminary stages, but definitely at one point they will still need to speak to a like patient or a human to really hone their skills,
Yeah,
humanistic
definitely.
skills.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we have a question from Take Wong.
Yeah.
So it's about related to the social
Mm,
deterministic theory, and it shows improvement in autonomy and competence, but not so
mm.
much on relatedness. So were
Yes.
you
Yeah.
able to measure any improvements in intrinsic motivation?
Or any improvement in intrinsic motivation? Actually, this is a very good and practical question. Because actually, we do not do any baseline motivation measurement. So eventually, yeah. So this is a very good question, but unfortunately, we do not have the data to
Alright.
to really directly show that there's uh, direct improvement in intrinsic motivation before and after using ChatGPT. So the only data that we have now currently is we found that students who use ChatGPT had greater motivation compared to those who are not using ChatGPT for their studies. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So perhaps a future area to look at.
Yes, yes, yeah,
Okay, I have one question from myself.
yes,
Noted that you have used both pharmacy and medicine cohort. So out of
yes.
curiosity, do you notice any unique differences in how they responded, either in the questionnaire or the open-ended segment?
Okay, so okay, this is based on our studies 2 years back. Definitely, the sample size for our medical students is smaller compared to our pharmacy students. But we found that a higher number of the students in medical students actually they use AI chatbot compared to pharmacy students. Yeah, so we also understand that in terms of the content knowledge, I think the medical students have much higher content knowledge lot compared to pharmacy students. So at the end, also their schedule is very tight. So eventually, we believe that more medical students will use AI chatbot for their own study and learning. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so just some differences in how much reliance or how much usage
Yes.
there is. All right. Okay.
Okay.
So thank you, Lidway, for your sharing.
Thank you.
And thank you to the participants for your active participation and questions in the chat. I'll hand it back over to Dr. Sushing. So Sushing, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Li Wei, for your presentation.
Thank you.
This is a very, I would say, very popular topic at the moment to look at students' use of AI, as well as how does this relate to their self-determination theory. So we look forward for your future research on this.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So
Thank
today
you.
we have two wonderful presentation. Today one is from Dr. Mahbub and the other one is from Dr. Wong Li Wei. So we hope to see you soon again, perhaps in November Prime session, which we have two